Okay, so this question is asking you to draw a frequency polygon. So what we've got to remember about frequency polygons is that they are a series of crosses to represent the data that are joined by straight lines. Polygon meaning many straight-sided shape. So we just got to remember how to plot the crosses. Well, what we've got to remember is across here we choose the midpoint values of the intervals given in the table, and then across this axis we're talking about the frequency. So we've got to plot the midpoint values against the frequency. So we look at these intervals and we work out the midpoints, and then we plot the frequencies against them. So we can see here the midpoint would be 162.5, the midpoint of this interval would be 167.5, and if you're not sure how to find the midpoint of an interval, you literally add the two numbers at the ends and then halve it. But for most of these we can see that it's quite reasonable. There's a 5 gap there, half the 5 is 2.5, add it onto the front, so 172.5 and so on. So basically you're plotting the midpoint 162.5 against 2. Working out the scale of this graph, we can see that every square is 1, so 162.5, we go up to 2, and again we'll be careful to work out the scale, and it looks like each little square is going up by 1, so 162.5 and then 2. The next one is 167.5 and 5. The next one's 172.5 and 10. And the next one's 177.5 and 21. And the next one's 182.5 and 16. And then the next one's 187.5 and 4. So once you've plotted your crosses, you then go through joining them together with your ruler. It's really important that this is drawn with a ruler, polygon, straight sides. Now polygons are normally closed shapes, but we don't draw back across to close the shape because we're just looking at the distribution. And basically frequency polygons are drawn to compare the modal average. So this cross here being the highest tells us where the modal average is, the one that happened the most. So that interval was the 175 to 180 interval. And then you can compare the range as well, because you've got the spread of the data across the graph from the beginning to the end. And that's drawing a frequency polygon to represent information by using the midpoint of the interval versus the frequency.